Welcome back to 2 Cents We See Scary Movies. If you thought we were done talking about Fever Lake, oh no, the curse continues. I'm Talon, the one still yelling at these characters to leave the lake, except now I kind of want them to stay and suffer. And my co-host is Dan, who at this point has emotionally detached from the movie and may or may not be reciting lines from Saved by the Bell just to cope. This is part 2 of our Fever Lake episode, where we pick up right where we left off, knee deep in nonsense.
So now we have dramatic music
Yes.
with a lake shot. It kind of pans over to a clothesline, to a campfire that Clear Spring is staring at like he wants to fuck it.
Right. Sexy fire.
And the dramatic music increases. Now I'm going to do my best and try to capture the excitement and the drama of the mashup of scenes that we're going to have.
Yes. Again.
Okay, so the boys are walking to the car. Lila in the woods, the wolf, the entity, and the lake steaming in one spot. Clear Spring looking at the sexy fire. Boys walking. Albert stops. He looks behind him, takes his glasses off. Wolf, Lila, looking back, runs. Entity chasing. Lila running. Entity, sexy fire. Albert staring. Lila running. Wolf running. Lila running. Lake steaming. Wolf with LED green lights. The first time you see that. Lila running. Albert staring. Lila running. Sweaty gets snagged on a branch. She's not deterred. Sexy fire in Clear Spring. Entities in woods. Lila running. She trips on a rock and falls in a circle of rocks. She's screaming as nothing is killing her. Blood on her face. Albert staring. Sexy fire time with Clear Spring. Wolf eating random meat. Looks like chicken. Lila's bloody face turns her head. She's dead. Albert staring. Sexy fire is out and is smoking. Clear Spring is done eye fucking the fire. Takes a deep breath. Drama music is over. I'm hoping that I caught the essence of that whole scene.
This whole movie, like the amount of times, I would like to go back. No, I wouldn't like to go back. But just to count the amount of times they have these fucking filler scenes where they're just a montage of different cuts set to music. And that whole, first of all, when Lila fell into that circle of rocks, where the fuck did that circle of rocks come from? Why was it there? Like, it just was out of nowhere. And they were all white, like perfect. Like, what the fuck? Where did this come from?
Maybe it was the Blair Witch.
That's what I was thinking. I was like, is this the Blair Witch Woods? And so then, and then she's writhing back and forth on the ground, rolling back and forth like something is attacking her. But there is absolutely nothing there. Nothing is there. You see absolutely nothing. And again, it's that weird, disjointed thing. And maybe maybe this evil can also just live on its own and not be possessing something.
Right.
And you just can't see it, because she was literally just rolling around on the ground, but nothing was there. And she'd have blood, splatter on her face and this and that. And the next thing you know, you see this wolf, and he pulls up what looks like he's, pulling up meat from her body. And it literally looks like this wolf just left Food Lion or Kroger or whatever with a fucking chicken 6-pack. It was raw chicken.
6-pack.
I was like, that doesn't look like, it was not human meat by any means. It was absolutely a chicken.
Absolutely.
Chicken breast, something. And I was like, what the fuck is this? And then, the staring, the Clear Spring staring, and Albert staring, and everybody staring. It was a mess. It was just an absolute fucking mess.
Yeah, definitely. I totally agree. It was an awful cut scene.
Lila. But you did get the green eyes from the monkey. What the fuck am I calling it? If there had been a green-eyed monkey, this movie would have been way better. The green eyes and the wolf, which was missing from the first wolf chasing scene.
Yes.
That's what I didn't want to say before, because I didn't want to ruin it for everyone.
I know, right?
Yeah. So that whole first scene where that wolf was chasing, if they had made that, because I was totally waiting for the eyes to turn green, that would have at least made it make some sense.
Yes.
But no green eyes in the first scene, which is why it just didn't seem to make any sense. But now at least they had green eyes, but this wolf did not attack her. Like,
No.
I guess the entity, the evil lake entity, attacked her, and the wolf just had sloppy seconds. Because if anybody wants to watch this movie, I don't know why, but if you do, just go to that scene, because that is, you'll see all you need to know about this movie.
Yes, absolutely.
Is that scene where she's getting attacked, because it was ridiculous.
Yep, that's all you need. And it's rough.
We should have a ridiculous counter, by the way. How many times we say ridiculous for this movie?
True. If you do want to do that, this is around 48 minutes and 13 seconds. Well, no, the only reason why I have that knowledge is because I had to pause it at this point, and so I wrote down the time so I knew where to go back to if I lost my place.
Oh, okay.
Because I would have been really disappointed if I lost my place and had to start all over again. Okay, so now we're back to the dramatic music is over. We're assuming that Lila's dead at this point.
I would guess. I couldn't tell, but yeah.
So now we're back at the boys, and they're filling the gas tank.
Oh, Lord.
With no funnel, no spout. They're just pouring it into the gas tank. It's getting all over the car, all over the ground. They show a shot of the gas tank, and now it's full.
Yeah.
I have no idea how they got this tank full when most of it got on the ground.
Well, no, this is what happened. And in my notes, I literally wrote, "Oh my God." So the boys go back to the car, and Steve's putting gas in the car, but he's doing it without a funnel, and it's just pouring everywhere. But because they think the gas is actually full, which it is, which is why, because they really don't explain it well, but really what happened was whatever this thing is made their car look like it was empty and die. And then once they got back to the car, the gas tank was actually full. So gas couldn't go into it because it's full. But you're not fucking putting the gas in the tank. You're pouring it all over the side of your fucking car. I mean, it's literally going everywhere. Yes. And because they're not using a funnel. But technically, I think the point was to make us see that the gas wasn't going in because we're really, really dumb and we don't know any other way to put gas in a car. Like, we wouldn't use a funnel. But anyway, to make it so that we know the gas tank really wasn't empty. It was always full. But the thing is, nothing fucking happened.
I think you're giving way too much credit to this movie.
Oh, no. Steve, actually, not Steve, Albert or Bobby, one of them says that's the gas tank was never, he doesn't say the gas tank was never empty, but he does say the gas tank was already full. That's why the gas isn't going in. But,
okay.
And I think they just made it like that so we could see that the gas wasn't going in. Like it was a horribly done thing. Like,
yes,
it was really poorly done.
I guess I missed that line.
Yeah, but the thing is, this evil lake entity made the car break down because it happens again. But not to ruin it.
Way to go.
Spoiler alert.
I mean, people are on the edge of their seats right now.
But the entity makes the car break down. Why? For what? So they can walk to the bait shop, get a gas can, and then walk back? Like,
maybe it didn't want them talking about their dreams.
Maybe not. Maybe it thought they needed some exercise. This is the worst evil entity ever, making you fucking exercise when you don't want to. So, but yeah, they get back and the tank's full. It's like nothing happened. Like if they had left the car and walked and then something happened to at least one of them, then it would have been worth it for the entity to make their car break down. But the entity it's like pulling pranks. It's not doing shit. It's just a prankster.
It's just prank.
It didn't even do anything. I was like, this is dumb. Yeah. Yeah, go back and watch that part.
Yeah. No. So at that point, the boys are getting back into the car, and Albert yells shotgun, and Bobby's like, "Oh, I always get the bad seat," and they're like, "Yeah, whatever."
Not true, because on the trip there, Bobby was in the front seat.
Right, and so they end up peeling out, like unnecessarily. They peel out, and they're on their way. We're back at the cabin, and now there's crazy music as the camera pans through the house. It goes into the girls' room again, where Christy is modeling a bathing suit. We get a shot of what was there, like what was the entity, and this time, and it happened to be Sarah. And Sarah's just kind of like staring at the door. She ends up scaring Christy, and we have some girl talk. And Christy is offering for Sarah to go down to the lake with everybody because at this point everybody's back and they're at the lake, and that's what Christy's getting ready for. And Sarah's just kind of like looking out the window, and she's working on her paper still. So she doesn't want to go. And Christy says, all work, no play makes a dull girl, and
Right.
leaves while Sarah is still looking out the window.
Yeah. They can't even write original lines. They're still lines now.
Yeah. The Shining. Well, I mean, they did change Jack to
Right.
girl.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they made it their own.
Right. I almost thought it was the line from The Shining, and then they were like, when they said "girl," I was like, "Oh, I don't recognize this line at all."
Yeah, it's totally different. It's not even the same. And so as Christy like walks out, she just kind of looks over and is like, "Bitch." Like, oh, okay, and I think it's because maybe she did hear, what Christy was saying earlier on,
right? But she has evolved a lot because in the beginning, when we first see her in the tarantula scene, she had, her hair is pulled back. She looks kind of mousy and a little nerdy. Whereas all of a sudden, I mean, basically by the time they're in the car and they're riding, she's let her hair down. She's a beautiful woman, and she actually looks a lot older than the other ones too. Like, I mean, she's more mature, not old or like old, but she just looks more mature than the other ones. The other ones definitely look like a bunch of high school kids. She looked a little older, but her personality, all in all, and her look evolves throughout this movie. You can see she changes. So,
are you saying that there's more foreshadowing?
I guess so.
So the boys are on the lake having some fun, and we have Albert fishing while he's standing in the lake, and everybody but Sarah is down there having a good time. Sarah's watching from the house. Danielle is on shore yelling to the boys something. I don't remember.
Yeah, I don't remember either.
It wasn't really anything, important.
I'm trying to remember. So Albert was in the lake fishing. That I remember.
Yep.
But the other boys on the boat, right?
Yeah.
Or on the dock.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I believe Christy's on the dock and Steve is on the boat.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because they had to have them all doing different things.
Right. So Steve, Albert, and Christy.
Right.
Okay.
And so Danielle's on shore yelling to the boys, and probably like she had to go to the bathroom or something, because she ends up walking up the hill to go behind a building that was at first in front of her.
Right.
And then all of a sudden she gets pulled into the back. Like someone pulls her like really hard.
Yeah, this whole arm comes out from behind this shed and grabs her.
And Albert's looking that way and he's like, "Oh, she vanished."
He's literally looking right at her when this arm comes from around the shed and grabs her and pulls her back there. He doesn't say, "Oh my God, someone just grabbed Danielle." He's like, "Oh my God, she vanished. Like she just disappeared. Thin air."
Right.
Like,
and the thing is like when she was grabbed in the front and the back of the arm. So he would have seen at least one of the hands grabbing her and pulled her. And it's not like one of those things where he's on the side of the building. He's right in eye shot of her.
Right.
Exactly. Like you can totally see.
Well, he didn't have his glasses on. Maybe.
Oh, that's true. That's true. The X-ray specs weren't on.
But yet he could still tell she disappeared.
All right. Well, I mean, if he had his glasses on, he could have seen through the building.
Oh, that's right. He could have. This next scene is very unemergency.
Oh, yeah. Albert and Steve go looking, and Christy ends up with them as well. They're on shore, and they walk to the corner of the building. They stop right there, and they're just yelling out Danielle's name. This is the worst search party I've ever seen in my entire life.
Well, even them just getting to that point, Albert was in the water, so he's yelling, "Oh my God, Danielle just vanished," but he's not even saying it with an, "Oh my God, Danielle just vanished." It's almost like, "My God, Danielle just vanished." we need to go and find her. He looks like he's trying to run, but not, but he's not really running. And I'm like, come on,
Yes,
track star, you can go.
yes,
And
the acting of the running acting was also terrible.
yeah, it was like it was the most non-emergency ever. And yeah, then they stop. Like she's like you could just if you were gonna yell for her, you could just yell for her from the lake.
Right. And because like they didn't walk up the hill, they didn't go to the behind of the building, they just stopped.
Yeah.
And so at that point, Danielle comes like running from behind the building, and Bobby comes out, ha ha ha. So we learned that it was a prank. It was just a
Right.
fun little ha ha prank. And he ends up putting his arm around Danielle, and she looks fucking skeezed out.
Right.
Like, this is the best acting in the entire movie, and I think the only reason why it was the best acting is because it was real.
Right.
I'm not saying that it was. It feels like that it may have been that, the actress who was playing Danielle was actually skeezed out by the Bobby character, like the Bobby actor, because, like,
We don't know what was going on behind that shit.
no, not at all. And she looked disgusted that his
Yeah.
arm was around her, and she was trying to get away, like she was trying to save her life. I mean,
Right.
so either it was like really good acting, like the best acting in the movie, or she was like that was like a real genuine like I'm grossed out by this guy. Pretty much the entire gang in various ways is telling Bobby that wasn't cool, that wasn't funny. Bobby's like, well, you're next to Christy, and oddly, she's not turned off by the idea.
She could have gone with anybody. Yeah. Steve or Bobby. She was like, whichever one, I don't care.
Right. Then Albert yells at Bobby. He has to be the white knight in shining armor. And he's yelling at Bobby, and Bobby's like all dejected. He's like, well, I still think it was funny. So they go back to the house. We see the brick 2180 with the title of the paper. Now it's back to the normal title. Like they took the terror out.
Yeah.
I'm fairly certain that was probably a plot hole that they forgot that they put terror on it.
Right.
Or terror was filmed like after and they spliced it wrong, but
Yeah. Because there's no point for that.
Right.
Like, why would you digress? Or not digress, but
backtrack.
Backtrack, yeah. Why would you go backwards to when it was not terror?
Right. But on the side of it, it's typing out that the college kids all died.
Right.
This is the first time we learn that these high school kids are actually college kids.
I had no fucking idea. And when I saw that, I was like, wait, what? College kids? These kids are in college? I was like, the whole school scene seemed like high school.
Oh,
the way
absolutely.
They acted seemed like high school. When the cop pulled them over, he's like, I know you got beer back there. Okay, well, if they're in college, who the fuck cares if they've got beer?
Right. And Bobby calling his mommy.
Yeah, why does Bobby have to call his mommy? Like, he's in fucking college. Why does he have to lie about going to a weekend getaway with his friends and say it was a group study thing? Like, why?
Yeah.
Everything about it made it seem like it was high school.
So Sarah's like looking at it like, oh, it's not funny. And at this point, she's thinking that it's Steve or Bobby that's doing it.
The only other way they could have done it is if they'd gone up there and just typed it themselves.
Right.
But they weren't there.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Right. Then it types out the evil is coming. And Sarah's not amused by it. And as she was thinking about it, she started getting more into it and she's liking the idea behind it.
Right. Because she wanted to be a journalist. She was going to school for journalism. And now she's decided she might be a novelist.
Yes. The next scene, we see the EMTs taking Lila's body out of the woods. This is where I'm saying the entire town is looking around. It's pretty much basically everybody that was in the diner. So
yeah,
there's probably a good 10, 12 people in this town because it's the same people all the time. The sheriff is there and he walks away kind of like shaking his head in disbelief, like, oh my God, I can't believe this happened. Townspeople, they're just kind of staring at each other as the sheriff slinks off to the Elmo-mobile.
Yeah.
And he looks back at the ambulance as the doors close and he looks off into the distance. There's a lot of looking off into the distance.
Yeah, there's so much looking. Everybody's deep thinkers out there.
Yes. I don't know. I can't count how many times a day I do that. Just
start doing that. I'm gonna start doing that everywhere I go. Like next time I go to the store, I'm just gonna stop, stare off,
and talk to the clerk about your dreams.
That would be so much fun.
just like you're just randomly pondering something.
That's how exciting my life is. That would be fun.
We see a shot of the lake with an image of Clear Spring. It's supposed to be kind of like a hologram, a vision, say, of the sheriff looking off and seeing Clear Spring's face and basically saying the evil is coming. That's basically all he says. I mean,
Right.
he does have other lines, but his primarily focus is the evil is coming.
Right. He had the easiest script to learn.
Oh, absolutely.
For sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And so this is where we learn Marge's name. She tells the sheriff that, you know, he needs to do something as people are always dying when people go to that house.
Right.
You know, like there's no other death in this town until someone stays at that house, and then people starts dying.
That's the thing. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe everyone in the town gets to live forever unless someone goes to the house. Then someone gets to die.
And maybe that's where the math comes into play. Like, you know, everybody's been so maybe Lila's actually like, you know, 350 years old.
Right.
Oh,
we just cracked the code, man.
So to her, a couple years ago would be 14 years. So maybe that's what it is.
This movie's so much better now. And the thing about Marge is that, okay, so everybody's from town is all there in the woods because of Lila being dead, and they're all upset and whatever. But this lady's really upset about it. Yes. Now, this girl just worked for her, I thought, but then I thought, is this her mom too? Because her mom wasn't there. Like, there were no family members I could see, or they indicated that were there for her. And this lady was the only lady who seemed to be super upset about her being dead. So I was confused about that. I didn't know if that was maybe her mom as well as her boss. So
yeah, they didn't say, but that makes sense. She just wants to burn the house down. The sheriff is just like, it's just an accident. Everything's fine. Everything's going to be okay. Projectively, the woman's daughter just died, but everything's going to be fine.
Yeah, everything's great. Walk it off.
Right, exactly. Where'd you next? Throw some dirt on it, walk it off. You're good. So a posse of the menfolk rally together and they get their shotguns and they start walking through the forest. You don't really see them for a little while. So we go back to the house and Sarah's up in the attic and she's kind of snooping around like with all the junk that's up there. She can see everybody at the lake.
Because you can see the lake from every part of this house.
Right. Like no matter where you are, kitchen, bathroom, attic, basement, like you can see the lake wherever you are. And there's no indication that there's a road that leads to the house from the woods. So, like, the house isn't necessarily surrounded by the lake.
Right.
But no matter what direction you're in, you can see the lake.
Yes.
She ends up finding a chest and she finds some old clothes in it and she finds a shawl that she ends up putting around her shoulders and she finds a picture. And at first you don't really know what the picture is. And while she's up there, the Elmo-mobile pulls up. The sheriff gets out and he walks towards the house. And so we go back to Sarah and she's looking at the photo and we see that it's the mother and the son from the beginning. So it's the two victims from the beginning of the movie, although the boy didn't die because the boy always lives.
In this picture, it does look a lot like, and I don't feel like I'm ruining it because I felt like it was pretty clear in the movie, but it looks a lot like Sarah.
Yeah.
Dun, dun, dun.
So Sarah hears a noise and she's like looking down the attic hatch and she sees the sheriff. Apparently, it's completely legal for the police to just walk into the house and just start snooping around. You know, so he goes into the girls' room and he sees the lake.
I can't believe it.
I know, right? And he can see everybody out there having a grand time, of course, except Sarah. And Sarah ends up startling him, and in a very pornographic sort of voice.
Yeah.
I didn't mean to startle you.
Right.
And, you know, because I've seen a few movies that start off that way. And it kind of goes into a very different direction, especially when they're in the girl's bedroom.
Right.
And, you know, because it's fairly normal when you come across like a public servant or whatever and just have a good old time. Yeah, plumber, you know.
Pizza delivery guy.
Right. But instead of like doing all of that, she calls him out for trespassing. And he's like, we don't like saying that word here. You know, we're all friendly here. Okay, so you can just randomly walk into people's houses? He says, there's something important that we need to discuss. They end up going out on the dock, and Steve ends up asking him, are you going to give me another ticket? Now, he didn't give him the ticket the first time.
No.
Because when he pulled them over, he just said, be careful, go on your way. He didn't write a ticket. I mean, honestly, he didn't even give the kids much shit about even speeding.
Right. Didn't even a warning, nothing.
He just said, be careful, and walked off. There was no ticket. But apparently, Steve is expecting to get another ticket from the ticket that he never got in the first place.
Right.
And so the cop says no, verifying that he gave him a non-existent ticket. So he's just trying to say everybody should stay at the house, try not to go in the woods. The kids are, getting sarcastic because he ends up like talking about Lila having an accident. He says that it could be a bear or a wolf. Albert's like, well, I don't know about any wolves around here because, he's the local expert. The sheriff reiterates, to stay close to the house, and they ask if Lila's okay. And he's like, no, she's dead. And the girls again suggest leaving. And Albert's like, no, everything's good. We're fine. And he's like, let's not let this ruin our weekend.
Right.
This is a girl that they've kind of gotten a little bit of acquainted with. It's not just like some random person they saw in the diner and left and we never see them again.
Yeah.
It's somebody that they're actually kind of building a little bit of a relationship with. He's like, nah, we're good. Let's not let it ruin our day. She died, but, what can we do? So luckily, in this scene, everybody basically tells him how shitty he is for saying that.
Right.
Which doesn't typically happen in these types of movies.
Right, yeah.
So, I did like that aspect of the writing because they...
props.
So they called him out for being a crappy guy. Then, like, as everybody's leaving, he's like, oh, we can always do dinner on the guys. Like, that's supposed to be better.
Didn't one of the girls, again, say she was going to be sick?
Yes.
Yeah. And then food was brought up again.
Yes. Yeah.
Because Bobby offered to make dinner.
Yes. Albert's kept on the dock by himself for a little bit. Now we see the Elmo-mobile on the road. The sheriff's in the car. And all of a sudden he breaks down. He gets out of the car and he opens up the hood. And a few seconds go by. And then there's a bunch of smoke that comes out of the bottom of the engine. The smoke coming out. And it's kind of like someone's watching him in the woods. Clear Springs shows up.
Right.
And again, he's warning the sheriff about the evil and that...
Wait. Did Clear Spring warn somebody about the evil?
He did. And ironically, yes. I think it was
where
like...
he got that from.
Well, I feel like that this is the first time he's mentioned it. That's why it's taking so long. Right. Because how else would they know? He ends up telling the sheriff with a very bad dub of his voice that is, again, disembodied and doesn't make any sense because it's out of place and where he is versus where the voice is coming from. He tells the sheriff the car should start. It will work now. And sure enough, sheriff starts the car and it's good to go. Mm-hmm. So far, this evil plays pranks. It's not good for cars.
It hates cars.
There's been one possession in the beginning, and then Green-Eyed Wolf in the woods. And so far, it did steam in the lake during that exciting montage that we had. So that was there too.
This scene also led to the sheriff thinking, or making a comment at least, that it's weird. Because it is weird that Clear Springs knows, oh, there's evil coming, but he also knows, oh, your car's going to start now. Do you have something to do with it? That kind of feeling.
Yeah.
Maybe it's Clear Springs.
It's like, hey, you're doing all this stuff.
Right.
You're pulling the strings.
The springs. you're pulling the Clear Springs.
Right. So Clear Springs, tells them, it's his tribe's lands, and they've tried to help the white man the entire time, but they never listen. Or want to understand, and...
That tracks.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And, the sheriff admits that he's wrong, and then he leaves. And that's all we see of that scene. Like, the sheriff's like, yeah, I'm wrong. Bye.
Right. Another wasted moment by the evil lake.
Yes.
Maybe his timing is just off.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree. So we're back at the house and they're cooking marshmallows. That's their big dinner. Bobby
Right.
is cooking the marshmallows. Christy makes that comment like, "Oh, this is all we got," because she wants an actual meal. And Danielle is really happy about being in the living room and everybody's having a grand time. Lila is forgotten.
Yeah, it's all
Yeah,
gone.
you know they've moved on.
Well, they knew
You
her
know,
for like what 15, 20 minutes, so they can grieve for 15, 20 minutes, and then everything's fine.
yeah, yeah. Everybody thanks Albert for inviting him and bringing them here. It was a really bad acting on Corey Haim's part. Yeah, I really appreciate that. It means a lot, guys. Thanks.
Well, he wasn't able to touch anybody.
Yeah, I think at that point the touching of Steve was over.
Yeah, it pretty much was.
Yeah,
Now that
I
think about
think
it.
yeah, because we get into other things that where he's not able to touch Steve.
Yeah, there's a lot going on
Yeah.
from pretty much from this point on. Lots going on.
Yeah. So this is where Sarah starts talking about her story and how excited she is. The other guys are kind of creeped out at the fact that she wants to write a story about college kids getting killed. She's excited about the idea and she's like, when I turn this into a professor, he'll be so excited and maybe I can become a novelist.
Right.
You don't necessarily have to turn in your paper to be a novelist to your professor. Especially nowadays, you can self-publish. You know,
yeah.
you don't need to turn it into a professor to be a novelist. So at that point, we cut to the posse in the woods, and they end up meeting up with the sheriff. And you know, they can't find anything. They can't find a wolf or a bear or anything. And
I'm surprised they found Lila.
Yeah, I know, right?
I mean, I don't even know
because they can't find any animal in the woods.
Those squirrels,
wolves, bears, deer, birds, frogs. Yeah, I mean nothing. There's nothing in there. And so they also don't think it was a wolf because wolves are they're in packs.
Right.
And so they're kind of more convinced that it could have been a bear. Now we also don't. Go ahead.
You can never get a rogue wolf. Like there's never ever a wolf by himself.
I think one with rabies.
Right. Oh, that makes sense.
And I don't know what Lila's injuries were, other than the piece of chicken that was eaten like next to her. But they think maybe it was a bear. So they end up calling it a night, and they leave in organized chaos.
Oh my god, the way they left was hilarious. I laughed so hard at this part.
It was like an old time comedy, like where they're just kind of like bumping into each other and like running, like walking past each other, and then like in front of each other, to the side of each other. Yeah. It was just like organized chaos.
And it's like, where were these people parked? Because some of them went one way, some went the other way. They crisscrossed here, there, and it's like, where are you guys parking? How many parking places are there out in the middle of the woods?
Yeah, there was like 3 or 4 of them that were actually like walking back into the woods.
Right. It's like, where parked? Because you would think that they parked somewhere and then walked into the woods. And then they'd all just walk back out to where they all parked. But apparently you can just park all over the fucking place in these woods. Because they all walked in the different directions, crisscrossing, bumping. I was like, what is this clusterfuck?
Yeah, it was absolutely wild. So we go back to the house, and Sarah's bored because all of a sudden she's like, hey, let's play a game. They're asking what they want to play. She says truth or dare. And they have to explain what truth or dare is to Albert. For some reason, he doesn't know.
You can't figure it out just from the words, even if you've never played it before.
It's right in the title. I mean, the rules, the concept, what you do, it's all right there. Right. But he doesn't know what it is, so they take some time to explain it to him. Then all of a sudden, the lights go out and we have like a really quick jump scare piece of music, and then it's over. Bobby is telling Albert that you're playing a great prank right now, and everybody tells Bobby to shut up. Everybody seems to be down on Bobby.
Poor Bobby.
And so Danielle goes back to truth or dare, and Sarah suggests hide and seek instead. I guess she's in control of everything. She didn't want to play truth or dare, so they decided to do hide and seek. So Steve ends up asking, well, who's it? And Sarah's like, me.
Yeah, she was really wanting to be it. Usually people don't want to be it. Typically, whenever I played hide and seek, Nobody wanted to be it.
Yeah, it's because that does the most walking around.
Right.
Everybody else gets to sit or stand where they are. Everybody hides while Sarah counts. Christy goes to the basement. Her flashlight ends up kicking out on her. We get some music that kicks in. You
Of
know,
course.
we have to have some exciting music.
Right.
And Sarah's still counting. Albert and Danielle are outside on this huge ass tree stump, and they're just randomly making out. So apparently Albert's no longer awkward.
Right.
Christy's flashlight is now working again. Someone grabs her around the corner.
Shocking.
Who could it be?
Right.
Who could it be?
Who grabs people from around corners?
If you don't know, it's Bobby. Damn it, Bobby.
I'm shocked.
So at that point, Christy says she's scared about the game and what they're doing. And Bobby says, oh, I'll protect you. And, he ends up going into a kiss, and they end up cutting back to Sarah, and she counts to 50. At this point, we don't really know where Steve is. We've seen everybody else throughout this little montage, but we haven't seen Steve. Now Sarah's looking for everybody, and Albert and Danielle is conspicuously outside on that tree branch, still making out. And who's watching them from afar? But it's Steve.
Steve.
Steve?
He's not touching me again?
and apparently he's liking this because he's got a big old smile on his face.
Right. It reminds me of what's his name in The Burning.
Yeah.
Always watching everybody making out and taking showers and shit.
Right.
Yeah.
So now we see Bobby and Christy. Now they're making out in the basement, kind of like probably like the root cellar.
Yeah, it was like a little room, like a root cellar. Definitely had that feeling.
Yeah, and they kind of had like a table that they were on or something.
It was whatever it was. It was a hard piece. It did not look comfortable.
No.
It was like a slab of concrete or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
It did not look comfortable at all.
But they were laying on that, making out. Now we're back to Albert and Danielle. Now we hear Clear Spring in the background. Now he's not there, but he's doing some sort of weird song or music or something. Right. And Albert ends up looking off into the distance in fear. We have native music starts to play. And here we go again. Clear Spring is now I fucking the fire again. Just more intensely this time. The lake is steaming in that one spot again.
Yeah.
The sheriff is in bed having a nightmare.
Right.
Clear Springs is heard saying, "Evil is coming."
He's heard saying, what?
Now we have a shot of the kid from the beginning by the lake, and he pulls out a butcher's knife. The sheriff sits up out of a dead sleep. Albert is still staring. Danielle isn't doing anything at all.
Her head is buried in his neck like she was kissing it, but literally she's not. Her head's still there, just not moving.
Just not moving. I mean, it feels like that they replaced her with a mannequin. That's how still she was. Now,
maybe it was like a real intense hickey.
But Albert is staring and jutting his eyes around, and which is kind of moving his head a little bit. But she is stone cold, not moving.
Not moving at all.
We're back to the sexy.
This not moving is so obvious that you and I both picked it up. Because I was like, what is she doing? Nothing. I was like, she's not moving at all. How is she not moving? Because he was his head was moving because he had that look like he was going to get up and go or something. But he was on the verge of doing something, Yeah. And she was literally just dead still. It's just funny that we both noticed that. It's obvious. It was that obvious.
Yeah. So, again, I'm going to try to capture the excitement of this scene.
Oh, right.
We go back to the sexy fire, back to Albert, back to steaming lake, back to kids staring, back to Albert, who gets up and runs into the woods, which confuses Danielle. We see the Right. We see the sheriff is gearing up. He's getting his gun and getting his clothes on and all that stuff. And we go back to the house and we see the brick 2180. And it has the terror back into the title. And this time it types out the number 1. Now, I don't know why, because this is supposed to be a countdown. And at this point, there's more than 1.
Right. It's like you're going to count up?
Right.
I don't know.
And Sarah is looking for the others through the house, quietly saying their names. Hey, where are you?
because that's how hide and seek works.
Right, because you know when you say that, it's like, "Hey Danielle, where are you? I'm right here. I'm over here. You found me." You know, because that's how hide and seek works.
Right, exactly.
And Clear Springs is like really eye fucking this fire.
Oh,
Like I
this
mean,
fire
like he
intense.
he is raging, and he's rocking back and forth. So, you know, the sheriff lives outside of town because he ends up driving past the Welcome to Fever Lake sign in his
Right.
Elmo mobile. At the house, Sarah is looking outside. She's no longer looking for them at this point. She's looking outside of the window in the bedroom, and she ends up putting on the shawl that she had, and she goes over to the nightstand, like the vanity, and she pulls out a jewelry box, and she pulls out a locket, and she ends up putting it on, and at random, a tarantula comes out from behind the picture.
Right.
Like it's just there. Like, why?
No, it's chemistry. We know this.
And she does attract weird things, but there's no indication of why a tarantula would be there.
Now, I will say this, because we talk about this in a lot of the movies that we've discussed so far, including this one, like when we talk about the animal pelts, where something is introduced and then it's never brought up again when you think it should be, right? So in the beginning, a tarantula, not this one, because that tarantula is dead. A tarantula is shown to us with Sarah, and they do go ahead and bring it back up again.
Needlessly.
Why?
Right.
What for? What the fuck does this tarantula have to do with anything?
Absolutely none, because this is the last time you see the tarantula.
Right. Like, well, she does pick it up.
Yeah, she picks it up.
She's not afraid of it. But that's the only significance it has, is that she was afraid of tarantulas.
And now she's not.
Like, okay.
And it's a plot device that just wasn't needed.
No, it doesn't make any sense. Like, if they had it, you know, I don't know if I keep saying I don't want to ruin this movie, but I think it's too late. But if the mother in the very beginning of the movie had a tarantula for some reason, then maybe it would make sense. But no, she didn't have a tarantula. Nobody had a tarantula except for the professor at the college, and then they killed it.
Right. And that was it.
That was it. Like that. This makes no sense. No sense whatsoever.
None.
But yeah, there's a tarantula. Wow. Okay.
So now we're back outside, and Steve is kind of creeping around the grounds when he sees Danielle at the house door yelling for Albert to let her in.
Yeah, because she's pissed.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I would be too.
Albert took off and left her there, and she's fucking pissed. But the doors are locked for some reason.
Yeah, and she goes to another door to try it, and she can't get in. Like, she's like really pulling on it, and she just cannot get through this door. It is the most secure, most powerful, heaviest screen door you'll ever see in your life.
Yeah, it was just a screen door.
She pulls so hard, and it doesn't pop off. And, you know, like, she obviously cannot break through that screen to lift up the latch. Right. She just tries and tries, and no matter how much might she puts behind it, she cannot get that screen door open. And so now we have Chrissy and Bobby, and they're still making out downstairs, and they hear a noise.
Bobby's shirtless at this point, isn't he?
I believe so.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, which is kind of weird, considering that these types of movies, generally it's the girl that's topless first. Right. You know, so
you could barely see her.
Right.
I could barely tell that he was topless, but I was like, I'm pretty sure that's some skin I'm seeing right there.
Yeah, but
because it was dark.
But it is a good note to have that, you know, this was like one of the rare movies where the guy had his shirt off before the girl.
Right. Yeah.
Because generally we have like the boob shots, and we didn't have that in this movie.
No boob shots. No, this was the closest to a sex scene as well that we get.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, because it's the only couple that was like on top of each other.
Yeah.
So he hears a noise, and they kind of like look back because Chrissy's kind of freaked out, and he's like, "Oh no, everything's fine. Let's just keep going." She's like, oh, "Okay."
Yeah.
And then she goes back to it. So we're back to Steve, and he sees Danielle. Now the distance from where he's at to the house, they make it seem like it's not very far away.
Uh-huh.
And he's yelling to Danielle before she runs to the third door and runs around the house, and she can't hear him.
Right.
Like maybe the evil blocked the audio, or the sound guy just sucked some more.
Maybe it's the rage. She was so mad, her blood pressure was so high.
She couldn't
It was
hear. Yeah,
she couldn't
maybe.
hear. It was just pounding in her ears. She just couldn't hear.
Yeah,
She was raging against that door.
rage against the door.
This fucking door.
Fuck you, you can't open me. Fuck you, you can't open me. So where she's so far away where she can't hear him, she ends up running around the porch. She runs around to the lawn, and she runs over to this log, which apparently is her cued spot to stop, because she just randomly stops there. So I think they had like an X painted there, so like
Right.
this is where you stop. And they just didn't edit that part out.
Right.
You know, because it was just, she's running full tilt, she jumps over this log and she stops. Like, why'd you stop? We're back to Sarah, and she's back in the attic looking for Steve, and she finds the axe that was used in the beginning. It was up in the attic this time.
Right. They saved that. No one took it for evidence, you know.
Now, why would they?
No. Cops are just like, let's leave it here. Let's just put
Right.
it up in the attic.
Yeah, it's not the
Safekeeping.
right. You know, it'll block the evil.
Right.
The sheriff is on the way, like Mrs. Doubtfire. Help is on the way! And, you know, he's in the Elmo-mobile, and a tree branch just, like, randomly falls in front of him, blocking his path. He gets out, he gets his shotgun, and he starts continuing on foot. And he's going through the forest. Now we have, what kind of music do we have going on? Again, native style music plays as he walks through the woods, and he hears a howl. The wolf returned.
Right.
So we have climatic music playing while Clear Springs continues with his sexy fire.
And this fire starts going crazy.
Oh, yeah.
It got crazy to the point where I thought he died.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought it was going that way too.
Yeah.
At the house, Bobby and Christy are still going at it. And, you know, Bobby's still shirtless. And Christy ends up screaming. We hear a thud. She just kind of looks over to the side and she screams. We hear a thud, and blood ends up going on her face. And then we see, like, underneath this stone tablet that they're on, that the head of the axe goes all the way down through, and we see blood on the axe.
Yeah, it took me a minute to process this scene, because it was a little dark. Not as dark as some of the other movies we watched, but it was a little dark. But yeah, ultimately the axe wielder took an axe through both of them and killed them. But for some reason, I don't know if I was having a hard time believing this axe was going to go through both people and into the whatever they were on, or it was just hard to see. But it took me a minute to gather that's what happened.
Yeah. And the way they were, you know, we'll talk about it later, but the way the axe comes out, there's no way in hell that thing went through everybody and whatever they were on.
Right. Yeah.
Again, I understand you need to suspend reality sometimes when it comes to movies, but this, as Talon said earlier, this one's asking a lot of reality suspension. So Christy's head shakes, and now she's dead. You know, because like we see the whole thing go through, and her head is kind of shaking, and then she's gone.
Yep.
Poor Christy.
And Bobby.
Well, you know, fuck Bobby.
Why are we suddenly turning against Bobby? Like, just a little while ago, we were like, poor Bobby. Now it's like, fuck Bobby. What did Bobby do in the 5 minutes? We're fucking Bobby now.
So now we're back at the fire, and Clear Spring stands up, and the fire is like all around him, and it's not letting him leave. You know, it's almost like having like one of those women get pregnant and they're just trapping you there. You know, he was. You know, I mean, he was eye-fucking this thing so much that the fire probably got pregnant. It's like, no, you're not leaving me. You've told them about the evil enough.
They didn't listen to you before, they're not going to listen to you now. Well, this is the crazy thing about this whole fire thing, because at one point, it's a low fire first, and then it gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and he's in the middle of it, and it's just as this whole montage of scenes is going on, this fire starts raging, but it's only just around him. So at one point, as I'm seeing this fire get higher and higher, I'm like, dude, just walk out of the fire. Like, jump over it. Just do something. This is not looking good for you, man. And then it gets so big, and I mean just in height. It doesn't spread. It's
Right,
just
it
getting,
just goes up.
it's just going up. And I'm thinking, you could still walk through that shit. If you walk fast enough or run through, you might get, your eyebrows, your pubic hairs might burn up a little bit, but you're gonna get the fuck out of there. Like, you're gonna be fine, and you can just jump in the lake because
Yeah.
the lake is everywhere.
Right, it's everywhere, and you can stop, drop, and roll.
Right. Oh,
You
God,
know?
yes. Stop, drop, and roll. That's the one thing I thought I was going to do a million times in my life. I have not done it once. Anyway, it's like quicksand. I thought
I know.
quicksand was
I
going to
mean,
really get me.
I was legit afraid of quicksand for the longest time growing up because we saw it so much in shows
Oh,
that
God. Dukes of Hazzard, Batman, and the Batman show. I
Yep.
watch Batman every morning at 6:30 in the morning.
Yep.
Batman. There was every
Brady-
show had quicksand back. Oh, yeah. Brady
the
Bunch.
Brady Bunch. Yep.
They all had quicksand. And
Yep.
I thought, damn, I'm going to die from quicksand.
Yep, that was the shows from the 70s and 80s. It
Yeah.
had kids scared of quicksand. Even though there was no fear of where we were living at the time, but apparently, we were afraid of it.
Like, how much quicksand is there going to be in Maine? Like,
Exactly,
but yeah, so I'm like, dude, just run out of this fucking fire. But it got to the point where I thought that was the end of him. I thought he was dead.
Yeah.
Because it engulfed him so much so that I thought he died. I was like, oh, he died in the fire. Okay. The evil that was coming did not get him. It was the fucking fire. I was like, what? Anyway, so.
All right, so now we're back to Steven. He's running in the woods, and he ends up getting tripped up by like an animal trap. It wasn't like a bear trap. It wasn't like that big, but it was similar to a bear trap. It
Oh
was
my God, I completely forgot about this part.
kind of like a wolf trap or something,
Right.
like something small.
Although they don't have wolves there, but yes.
Right. So, he gets tripped up, and Daniel comes out of the woods out of nowhere. She just happens to be next to him. Like she stopped at her cue spot where she couldn't hear Steve yelling to her, and now all of a sudden she's there with Steve. Now keep in mind, she ran in the total opposite direction of where Steve was.
Right.
But she ends up coming to his aid.
Yeah.
So good for her.
Mm.
They agree about not hearing each other because they kind of make that comment. So this is again like one of those plot holes where it's kind of stupid that they put it in, but then at least they acknowledge it later.
Yeah, it's weird. I don't know how to write this scene, but we'll make up for it later.
Right.
We're sure everyone's going to notice, so we will let them know later on. That's basically how it was.
Right. So Danielle is like saying, we need to get you a doctor. And, at first Steve is like, no. And then, they're like, yeah, that's what we'll do. And so
that part I didn't understand either. It's like, do you know where the doctor is? Like,
right.
You're not even from here. Where are you going to go?
Right. And who knows what time of night this was.
Yeah, it's the middle of the fucking night.
It could have been like 2:00 in the morning. There's not many doctors that are up at that time.
Yeah.
Even in 1997, they end up hobbling over to the car because he's got his hurt leg and Danielle brought him over. Steve is surprised by the locked doors of the car, and he's no longer having any fun. Like Lila's death, that sucked, but it didn't ruin the mood. But now, because he's running around in the woods and he got in a bear trap, now it's not fun anymore. Right. Now, also keep in mind, like, he doesn't know about any of the killings or anything because he's been outside the entire time.
Yeah.
Like, no one really knows about the killings right now.
No, because only 2 people have died outside of Lila.
Right. Danielle, reiterates that, she's going to take him to the doctor. And for some reason, they go back into the woods. No idea why.
I don't remember.
And this is where the fire, like, really starts to trap Clear Springs. He can't get himself out. So the sheriff is still in the woods with the wolf following. It looked like recycled shots from earlier where the wolf is like walking around and looking at mole holes and shit.
Right.
Clear Springs is really in a pickle.
Yeah,
because this fire is pissed off.
Right.
And he just kind of like raises his arms and defiantly screams in the air. Yeah. I don't really know what that did.
That's how you fight fire.
True. I do remember Smokey the Bear saying that.
Right.
Only you can prevent forest fires by raising your arms and screaming defiantly. Definitely remember that.
Well, that was the original slogan, but it's a lot to put on a poster.
That's true. That's true. It did take up a lot of room.
They just shortened that down to only you can prevent forest fires.
So the sheriff hears the scream and he aims his shotgun just like around, and he's just like looking around with a shotgun, and then he ends up going on his way. So Danielle and Steve end up getting back to the car, and she wants to leave now. And Steve he's like, no, we can wait. Again, the girl wants to leave, and everybody wants to stay.
Yeah, the guy who has just got his foot entangled in a bear trap or whatever doesn't want to leave.
Yeah, because he wants to wait till morning.
Right.
And she's like, no, I want to leave now. And again, like, no one knows about, all she's experienced so far is Albert ditching her.
Right. So yeah, why is she so suddenly freaked out? Because she was seemingly freaked out.
Yes.
Why?
Yeah, because that's the thing. Like, I mean, I understand if she's pissed off, but like, this is fear.
Yeah, I guess it's, when the doors.
Yeah, that's true. That
the doors must have terrified her.
That was a heavy screen door.
Yeah.
So Steve relents and he gets in. He's like, yeah, all right, fine.
How'd they get in the car? Because it was locked.
Who knows? There's
it's
not
the
a
prankster evil. It's the prankster evil.
Right.
It locked it, then it unlocked it. Yeah.
The car doesn't really start. Danielle tries wiping the windshield. Steve asks for the defroster. Now, as stated, the car's not on. And Steve wants the defroster on.
For what, though? Isn't it summer?
Oh, you can see very clearly through this window. I have had ice on my windshield thinner than what is shown on there, and I could see.
Right.
So there's no reason why they need to turn on the defroster. So, Danielle's trying to wipe the windshield on the inside. She's just like, let's just go, whatever. Which I don't blame her, because you can see through the goddamn window. And Steve's like, I'll take care of it. The part of the car that they're supposed to be, quote unquote, defrosting and wiping off is the front. And he goes to the back. He goes to the back of the car and starts wiping the back of the car with a towel. That's what he's using, is a towel. That made no sense to me, because if they want to go forward, which is the direction they were trying to go in, it would make more sense to just clear off the front window. But he made sure he got that back window. So that was good.
Maybe it was just fogged up on the inside. Like when they got in, they breathed real heavy.
Right.
So why is he wiping the outside?
That's a good question. Again, impeccable writing. So now someone just kind of randomly opens the passenger door, and Danielle looks in and she starts screaming, and she gets out the other way and she starts running. She ends up tripping over Steve's dead body as she runs to the house. Right. And he's kind of laying there, and it looked like he had his neck severed a little bit, because there's some blood on his neck. She ends up tripping over him. We didn't know Steve got killed, but in this particular trope, it makes sense, because it's supposed to be a surprising death.
Right.
Honestly, I didn't care. But I mean, the dumbass did go to the back of the car rather than the front. Right. So I mean, he did deserve it.
Yeah, he deserved to die.
Absolutely. I mean, there's genocide, there's murder, and there's wiping the back window when you should be wiping the front. So those are the top 3 things in the world that are awful to do.
You should be killed for,
She goes to that screen door again, and it is just too hard to get into. She just can't do it. It's not going to happen. So she turns around and she starts running back towards the car where the murderer was supposed to be. And she runs pretty much directly where Steve's body was. It doesn't trip over it this time, and it's not there.
Yeah.
Now, we don't see Steve's body anywhere else, so it's not like the killer moved it to scare somebody else or anything like that. It's just not there. So she gets back into the car, and it doesn't start.
That always happens.
Right, of course.
Always.
Every single time. So now we have another first-person shot of on the outside of the car. Danielle screams again as an axe comes down several times on the windshield. The sheriff is still in the woods. I don't know how far away the tree and the car and the woods are from the house.
Yeah, how big is this town?
Being a movie, you would think he'd be there a little bit quicker, but maybe they're just trying to say, how far away he really is. But
Right.
it's taking a long ass time for him to get there.
It is.
He stops, and that docile wolf ends up knocking him down a hill. I don't know how, because again, we were using like stock footage of a docile wolf, and he picks up the shotgun and he shoots at the wolf, and it runs away. And when the gun goes off, now it's a double barrel shotgun.
Mhm.
My BB gun is louder than that thing. I don't know what they used. Like, they couldn't even put in like a shotgun shot, a fake sound,
Yeah.
because it literally just sounded like he pulled the trigger on an unloaded shotgun. He ends up like walking towards the light that's like flashing into his face. Like, I don't know where this light was coming from. It was just there.
It's probably the flames from old Clear Sky or whatever it is.
Clear Springs.
Clear Springs.
The Brick 2180 is now keeping a kill count. So now there's 2. Like, let's doing the math. No, because that would be 3 if we were counting up. So yeah,
Right.
like the kill count is way off. Like
Yeah, okay,
it started
yeah,
with
'cause-
1, it went to 2, and then we never see the kill count again.
Because wait a minute. So there's 6 of them there, and 3 of them are dead.
Yes.
And yeah, it is. And now there were 2. Yeah, but Al wrote that. Al typed that on the computer.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because Albert is sitting in front of the 2180 with blood all over him and on his sweater.
Right.
And he kind of has like Michael Jackson Thriller contacts in.
Right. Yeah.
To make it look like, he's the evil.
Right.
No one saw this coming, by the way.
No.
Like, I had no idea this was coming.
No idea.
All the foreshadowing that we mentioned earlier, it just got all ruined. I have no idea.
I was shocked. I was very shocked that it was Al. And I was also shocked that the evil can be in more things than one thing at a time. Yeah. I was like, oh, this evil can just go into everything.
It is a multifaceted, multitasking evil. Something we've never seen before.
Never.
With these contacts in, he's trying to look menacing, which doesn't work. I mean, say what you will about Corey Haim. His face does not show any kind of menacing look at all.
Right. Even covered in the blood and muck he's got all over him.
Yeah. And we have kind of like a weird shot of Sarah upstairs. It was just kind of, I can't even describe it because I can't really, it was just weird.
Yeah.
And then we have like another first person view of Albert, and he's going to get the axe from Christy and Bobby. And this is where, like, I think that he probably would have done this already, especially where, he used the axe to smash the windshield and killed Steve.
Yes, that's why at this point I thought, oh, there's 2 of them. Because I was like, because it didn't make any sense.
They don't have the budget for 2.
Because I was like, wait a minute, why? Because he obviously goes downstairs to the basement and he pulls this axe out of Bobby and Christy, and I'm like,
and the rock slab bed, whatever they were on.
Right, yeah, the thing that they were on. And I was like, oh, wait, because we just watched a whole scene where somebody used an axe to fuck up we're assuming probably kill Steve,
right,
and then bust through the window,
right.
And I was like,
to get
so I thought, oh, there's 2 of them. There's Al and someone else is doing the killing. That's what I thought at this point in time.
Oh, you thought it was a Scream type ending.
Yeah, well, I thought, I don't want to ruin the movie.
Well, we can stop that talk here so we don't ruin the movie. We'll get there.
Right, yeah, but I thought it was 2 because it didn't make any sense that he didn't have the axe already, unless there were 2 axes.
Maybe.
But
I mean,
it only implied that there was 1.
Because I mean, we did still have Sarah,
right?
And she had an axe at some point. Who knows? Maybe there was 2 axes.
Oh, right, there was the one. God, this is.
But at the same time, this is the last time we see the axe.
Right.
So the axe.
He doesn't have the axe upstairs?
Maybe. Well, we'll get to that, I guess. So the axe comes out way too easily, and there was no way that it went through all of, like, 2 people and this bed thing, the way the angle of the axe came out.
Yeah.
Anybody
that's chopped wood knows better.
Yeah, absolutely. So now we have a similar shot as the beginning with him walking, with the axe kind of like hanging down by his
Mhm.
feet. And you're right. So we do see the axe a little bit more. Similar shot as earlier,
From the
and
beginning of the movie,
yes.
right? Yeah.
Yep. And he ends up going upstairs to Sarah, and she's looking at a photo, and she says it was raining that night, talking about,
Right.
the killing that took place in the 1940s. And then she's describing the night that Albert watched his mother die. He was the boy in the attic.
Right. Sure.
He would be 22, 23 around this time if we did the math. That means he was born in like 1974, 75, somewhere around there.
Uh-huh.
1925, 1972. He would have been born 1972. That's really close to 1940.
Right.
It really is. It's pretty close.
Well, we'll get to. I have my theory about all of this. The best I could do
Okay.
at the end of this.
Okay. And so now we have like some flashbacks to that night, and Albert's yelling at Sarah, who is seemingly possessed. You killed them, and now you want to kill me. Like the evil is possessing both of them.
Right.
One wants to kill the other, but the other one wants to kill the other one before the other one gets killed.
Right.
Okay. As long as we got that straight.
Sure we do.
And Sarah tells him, give mommy a hug. And Albert is holding the axe. Sarah says he killed them, that he's the one that killed his mother and father.
Uh-huh.
He flashes to a child in the corn walking, very reminiscent of Children of the Corn.
Right.
And it cuts kind of between this and Albert of today. And we see like a possessed Sarah with really bad witch makeup.
Yeah, they were doing something funky with her face.
Oh yeah, it was bad.
And it got progressively worse as it went on.
And now it's flipping between him, baby Albert stabbing someone, melty witch face, Sarah. Albert's frightened. Flashes between him, psycho dad, melty witch, who is now sitting down because she was standing, now she's sitting. Albert yells, you lied. You said this would all go away. He starts hacking the melty witch. We see a peaceful morning shot of the lake. We see 3 cars driving through town. Marge and the deputy talk about the happenings and how the sheriff took a long time to get to them. I don't know how they know how long it took.
I know. Well, I agree.
But I agree. He did take an awful long time to get to them. Inside the diner, the deputy goes on about Albert sitting in the blood with the axe, crying. Deputy goes to say Albert was in a crazy house most of his life, because he was saying that he got this information from the FBI, that he was in a crazy house most of his life.
Overnight.
Yes.
Overnight, he got this
Yep.
Within a few hours.
And he killed his father and mother. And they set him loose, saying that he was fine. He says that the sheriff says he's going to go back to the asylum. The deputy kind of sets up a sequel by saying they'll probably let him out in another few years. Marge says not to talk like that. They'll put him there for life, which is also another kind of prelude to a sequel, because these types of movies,
right,
that always get out for some reason. And deputy says it's a shame, that the 2 girls that died because they were pretty. Maybe if they were ugly, he would have been okay with it. But it's a shame that these 2 girls died because they were pretty. And Marge says, because she has like a look of like fear on her face, like, don't you mean 3 girls?
Right.
And he's like, no, there was only 2. He saw for himself. And then Marge's look of fear turns more deep fear.
Right.
And so we go back to the house, and the Elmo-mobile is outside of it, and the sheriff is there once again. Sheriff gets out, and he pops the trunk. He gets some gasoline out and throws it on the house and the shrubbery.
Right.
Clear Springs shows up out of nowhere. So
he's alive!
So he's fine. He was able to get away from the fire and the fire babies.
Right.
The sheriff tells him to leave, because what he's about to do, he doesn't want any witnesses.
Right.
That's not usually what you tell somebody, especially when you're doing something suspicious.
And illegal.
And as the cop, he should know that. Clear Spring says it won't burn, and the he's not convinced. He's continuing to throw the gasoline on the shrubberies, and Clear Springs reiterates that the white man is always ignorant, and the sheriff continues with the fuel, and Clear Springs leaves after one more attempt to talk to the sheriff. Sheriff is having none of it, and so Sheriff walks to the front away from Clear Springs, and the Clear Springs says, "The evil will return." I didn't know the evil left at this point.
Well, it's in hibernation.
Ah, gotcha.
And once it wreaks its havoc and gets whatever it wants out of the havoc it's wreaked, it then goes back into the lake and sleeps it off until the next time it's hungry.
So the sheriff lights a Molotov cocktail and tosses it. The fire starts, the evil screams, and the fire goes out. The sheriff pours more gas and tries again. And Clear Springs looks on, fire goes out, back to the lake, because they can't stay off the lake, and it starts to bubble.
Ooh.
The sheriff is looking at the house. Clear Springs looks off into the distance again. And we have a peaceful shot of the lake. Clear Springs was looking at it, and he walks away. He states, "The evil is finally at rest. Until next time," in a creep show-esque tone.
Right.
We have ominous music playing, and the last scene, we see Albert's head, like the back of his head, in one of the cars, and he turns to face the camera, and it freezes. He no longer has the contacts in, but the evil could possibly be with him because, Clear Springs said if the evil leaves the lake, it's all hell's gonna break loose.
Right. Before I get into my theory, I do want to say about the whole trying to burn this house down. He has this Molotov cocktail, which you can fucking throw, right? He's standing right next to this house that he's just doused with a bunch of gasoline. And he just throws it down on the steps, which are concrete. But he just throws it down the steps. Like, you could have thrown it into the house, through the window, you could have thrown it, but you could have been further back. Because if it had gone up, it would have been like, boosh, because it's fucking gasoline. And you're standing right next to the fucker. I was like, all right.
Well, Sheriff isn't very smart.
Oh, okay, I'm going to try and explain this in the best way I possibly can. Hopefully it'll be better than the movie. So when he goes upstairs and Sarah's his quote-unquote mom, she's like possessed by the mom.
Yes.
And basically what I think has happened is when she says the whole part of, because we were trying to figure out his age, because he apparently was the little boy back in the beginning.
Yes.
I think what it is those people they possess whomever does the killing the 15 years or whatever it is later. So it really isn't him. He's just possessed by like Sarah isn't his mom. She's possessed by the spirit of his mom.
Okay.
And he is possessed by the spirit of this little boy. But go ahead.
And that would make sense when they said that they always look alike.
Right.
Okay.
Even though he looks nothing like the little boy. Sarah looked like the mom.
Yes.
Because they showed that little picture of her and she kind of resembled the mom a little bit from the beginning. But he wasn't a little boy anymore. He's an adult now, but which that did not make sense. Like if you were going to maintain consistency with them looking the same, it should have been a little boy, but then it wouldn't have. Why would some little boy be having a party with a bunch of little kids by themselves at this lake house? So I guess that wouldn't work out.
Want to come to my house and play with my toys?
No parents. All right.
We're gonna have chips and soda.
So maybe we'll have a clown. I don't know. Balloons. Of a pony. So I think that's what that is, because it doesn't make sense. I couldn't figure out any other way for it to make sense other than that because she obviously was possessed because Sarah was not his actual mom. So it's the only thing that made sense, even though he wasn't a little boy. Also, in the flashbacks that he was having when that was going on and he stabbed somebody on the porch, that was his adoptive mother that he stabbed when he was a little kid. So he's been possessed by this kid for a really long time, apparently. I'm guessing. And maybe something should have happened to him a long time ago, but they put him in a mental institution, so it stopped it for a while. I don't know. I'm just pulling shit on my ass right now, but
No, this is making sense, and it would have been nice if they would have kind of done sort of exploration of that.
yeah, like there was nothing. I mean, I had to slow mo that whole. I watched that scene twice, and the second time I watched it slowly because I was like, who is he killing? Because I thought it was the mom from the beginning, and I was like, wait, that doesn't make any sense. Because at one point I thought he was possessed by the dad, because the dad is who killed the mom, not the little boy in the beginning, right?
Yeah.
So again, totally inconsistent. It would have made more sense if he was either a little kid and the little kid had killed his mom, or if he was possessed by the dad and the dad and he killed the mom because he's possessed by the dad. They didn't do either of those things. So the best thing I could come up with was that scenario. The other thing that I don't understand though is if it's Fever Lake and Fever Lake is possessed by this evil, why can't the house burn down? Is the house possessed by the evil too?
Yeah, that didn't make any sense because I mean it's the lake that's the issue.
Right. And if the lake has run amok and done whatever it needed to do, and now it's gone back in this evilness has gone back in the lake and to sleep until the next time, even though it can inhabit whatever, I guess a house, if it's gone back into the lake and gone to sleep, why would the house be evil still? Or why would it be unable to be burned down? That doesn't make any sense.
No, that's a good question. Unless the evil really likes that house,
Yeah,
you know,
I
it's.
guess.
I mean, obviously, you know, because it has perfect panoramic views of the lake. You know, it's in a good spot. You know, and maybe the lake just doesn't want to give it up.
Right. And also, because what's her name? Marge, she mentioned that only time anybody ever dies is when
Right.
somebody's at that house. So why is the house? It's like they made the house is evil, or is the lake evil? Are they both together? Are they working in together? They're in cahoots.
They're in cahoots.
It's very Scream-like.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, this movie was absolutely ridiculous. Like, I mean, don't get me wrong, I have fun making fun of it, but
Oh,
that's
yeah.
all this movie was good for.
Oh,
You know,
totally.
was having a good laugh about it. I don't know where Corey Haim was in his difficulties when this movie was made. I can only assume that he made it for the money. It wasn't
Right.
it certainly wasn't for the art form.
No.
You know,
God.
and Mario Lopez, it was probably like the only thing you could get after Saved by the Bell.
Right.
You
Until
know, because
Entertainment Tonight came along.
right, you know, I mean, he did get, you know, quite a good hosting gigs. You know, I mean, he did good with hosting gigs, but you
Oh,
know,
yeah, yeah.
I'm just glad he's done with acting. Because none of those kids had a really successful career after Saved by the Bell.
So, how many cents would you give this movie?
0.5. The only reason why it's so high is because it gave me a good laugh. That's the only reason why it's so high.
All right, you know what? I was gonna give it no sense, but since you say that, you're right. It did give me a good laugh, so I'll go ahead and give it a 0.5 too. I might give
Yeah.
Bobby a 0.9 just because everybody was pissed off at Bobby, and you were like, "Fuck Bobby,"
So
for no reason.
you're just trying to give Bobby some credit.
Some credit. Or Bobby. All right. So, do we have anything else we would like to add?
We can definitely put a sock on this one.
Oh, good God, please. This was, thank God we started at 7 o'clock, by the way.
Yeah, we did.
Holy shit. It's
Yeah.
11.
It is. It is. Yeah.
If we had started this at 9 o'clock, I'd be dead right now. It would be Saturday before I'd be fully recouped. Oh my goodness. All right.
Finally is the end of Fever Lake. We survived. Barely. Next week kicks off a brand new month and a brand new theme. Dads are deadly. Because it's June. Nothing says Father's Day like a horror movie with a murderous patriarch. We're starting off with Frailty, a dark and chilling psychological horror that will help you completely forget Fever Lake ever existed. And honestly, that's the real gift. Until then, be scared, be prepared, and don't get caught in the dark.